Okay, people, welcome back. Feels like it's been a minute. Today I'm going to be giving out tips for Wednesday and Thursday. Didn't do any for today. I didn't like the games and the odds the bookies were giving us. So I'm not going to force any content just to bring you videos. If I don't like the picks, I'll rather skip a few days than give you bad picks. That's all. And yeah, for the newcomers, I suggest that you start betting on goals instead of outcomes of games, and also try to bet or start betting on single games and maybe doubles instead of the huge accumulators. So let's check out what we had in the previous video, the Monday's tips, and we had Torino against Atalanta. Funny enough, this was one of my favorite tips, and it was the only one not to go through on Monday. And Atalanta, the last 4 games, 3 losses, 1 draw, and only 3 goals scored. For now, we'll put them on the blacklist, but we will certainly monitor their situation because they're due for a breakout game sometime. For the second tip, we had Midtjylland over 1.5 goals against Viborg. They won that game 5-1, done and dusted in the end of the first half. They scored 2 goals in the extra time, and they took over Copenhagen. I'm so glad for that, as the first place right now, and I hope they continue going that way because they won us a lot of money this year, so they deserve it. Then for the third tip, we had Fenerbahce against Sivasspor, BTTS, great odds, 188. The game finished 4-1, and shout out to Sivasspor for scoring a much needed goal. And for the last tip, we had Celta against Cadiz, done and dusted in the first 15 minutes of the game. And that's the beauty of over 0.5 goals, best bet of all time. And Celta continues to suck at home. So pretty good overall for Monday, 3 out of 4, especially if you took it as single games. But let's continue now with the Wednesday's tips. Now for the first tip, let's head to Scotland. A game between St. Johnstone and St. Mirren, first division. You may be wondering what we're doing in Scotland, but guys, as I said, a lot of domestic games this week, not a lot of leagues, so we have to work with what we can. And this is actually not a bad game. So St. Johnstone is pre-last in the league, 11 points in 14 games. And St. Mirren is currently 4th, 22 points. Maximum in the league they can get is 3rd because it's always between Celtic and Rangers, and looks like Celtic is running away with the league this year. And the stat that I like in this game, Scottish League, by the way, is not a high-scoring league by any means. But St. Mirren haven't scored in 3 consecutive games, and they only got 1 victory in the last 5. Maybe it's time for them to break through and at least score 1 goal. So my tip for you guys here is to go St. Mirren over 1 goal for odds 177. And of course, you have the option of just going with St. Mirren to score, which would be a better option, just smaller odds. So my first tip is St. Mirren over 1 against St. Johnstone. Now for the second tip, let's head to the Premier League. Happy guys. Let's start with the game of the week. Man United, Chelsea, just joking. Aston Villa, Man City. Those 2 teams are 1 point away from each other. You guys are probably familiar with the league, so I don't have to explain all the stats here. But Aston Villa have won 6 out of 6 at home. They're the perfect home team, along with Liverpool, who's got 7 out of 7. And now they meet this Man City team who haven't won in 3 consecutive games. They have 3 draws in a row. And if Arsenal wins tonight against Luton, they'll take a 6-point lead over Man City. I know it happened last year, but that could be huge. So the main question now is, can Man City go 4 games without winning? Their defense has been terrible. 10 goals conceded in the last 4 games. So I can see Aston Villa scoring at least 1 goal in this game, but however, that's not what we're going to be taking. Look, I don't like predicting the outcomes of games. I just like predicting who can score or not. So the goals, and I hope this is a high scoring game because you got to go with the best team in the world here. And as I said, I think Aston Villa will score 1. That means Man City will have to score at least 2 goals to win this game. So the odds are currently only at 158. I wish they were around 170, 175. So my second tip is basic, to go with Man City over 1.5 against Aston Villa. What do you guys think about this game? Now for the third tip, we got Fulham against Nottingham. 2 teams that are right next to each other in the table. And Fulham almost pulled off a miracle last weekend against Liverpool. They almost ended up winning that game, but in a true Liverpool fashion, the king of comebacks, they won that game 4-3, and Arnold has been balling. But Fulham has been scoring at goodwill, 7 goals in the last 3 games, and those goals came against really good teams. I mean, Liverpool, Wolves, which we had over 1 goal on Fulham, and Aston Villa. While Nottingham is coming off 3 straight losses where they conceded 7 goals, so I like to go with Fulham's momentum here of scoring goals. We'll play it safe, however, over 1 goal. The bookies are currently giving us odds 146. And for the ones who don't have that bet, I suggest that you get a website that have the over 1 goal specific bet. It means refund, and if Fulham scores 2 goals, you win the bet. You will only lose if Fulham doesn't score. But in the future, we're going to be taking this bet a lot. So guys, I suggest you get a website that has the over 1 goal bet. So third tip is Fulham over 1 goal against Nottingham. Now for the fourth tip, we got a big game for some of you. Man United against Chelsea. Two teams that are underachieving. Chelsea is performing better, especially away. And Man U is coming out 4 consecutive games at home where they haven't scored over 1 goal. So I'm tempted here to go straight with over 1 on Man U. But as I said, Chelsea has been performing pretty well away lately, scoring goals apart from their loss against Newcastle. But it feels like they're finally finding their identity. I would like to go with BTTS here. I mean, the past 4 games that those two teams played ended up in BTTS. My only concern about this game is a 0-0 game because sometimes it stupidly happens. But my fourth tip would be is that both of those teams will score. Odds are currently 155. I'm disappointed by the bookies this week, especially in the Premier League. They're not giving us great odds at all. Now, I also got one more suggestion for you. It's in DFB Pokal, so it's a cup game between Saarbrucken and Frankfurt. Saarbrucken is currently a mid-table team in the 3rd division. And I like this stat about Saarbrucken that they haven't conceded in 4 consecutive games. And Frankfurt, which we had on the weekend against Strasbourg, they managed to score over 1 goal, but we got a refund. Those boys are coming off 3 straight losses. I mean, should we go with them again? But I'm not. This is why it's a suggestion. Frankfurt over 1.5. Maybe they will break that streak of losing games and not scoring over 1 goal. Bookies are giving us odds 155. But I do think that Saarbrücken is going to be conceded in this game. Now for the Thursday's tips, let's head to the Saudi League. A lot of you have been suggesting this league already for weeks, but here we are. Let's check it out. Al Hazem against Al Fateh. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Al Hazem are currently last in the league, and that's understandable because they recently lost 0-9 at home against Al Hilal. And Al Fateh is not doing much better. I mean, they're in crisis mode. They haven't won in 4 consecutive games. And what's even worse, they only scored 1 goal in those 4 games. Guys, this is a tricky game because plenty of times this year I gave you a tip of going over 1.5 on the clear favorite and they ended up winning that game 0-1. And some of you I know take the over 0.5 bet, which is great. Here it smells like this could be the same situation again of a 0-1 game. So my tip here is to go always with goals. I like the odds in this game. It is risky, over 1.5. That's what I'm going to be taking on Al Fateh. But for you guys, you choose. Either you go with over 1.5 or you just go with Al Fateh win. And this will be my first tip. And it's always up to you to decide if you're going to be taking this bet or not. Now, another game in the Saudi League. Al Riyadh against Al Ettifaq. 2 teams that are also not doing well. Al Riyadh has only 1 point in the last 3 games. And Al Ettifaq has only 3 points in the last 4 games. And they have definitely slipped off of the top 3 race. And of course, there's a stat that I like in this game is that Al Ettifaq haven't scored in 3 consecutive games away. Saudi League is tricky. Sometimes you can catch a high-scoring game, but sometimes it can end 0-0. So let's hope this is not one of those cases where it goes under 1.5. I think the odds here are pretty good on Al Ettifaq to score over 1 goal. It's currently at 183. And also you have the option of just going for Al Ettifaq to score over 0.5 goals. Now for the third tip, we head to Copa del Rey, which is a Spanish cup game, so be careful. A game between Melilla and Eibar. So Melilla is currently in the Spanish 3rd division. They're dead last there. They only have 6 points in the last 15 games, so it looks like they're going to be in the 4th division next year. For sure they're going to be in the 4th division, I mean. And their opponent, Eibar, is currently in La Liga 2, which is the 2nd division, 6 points away from the top, so they're doing pretty well. Maybe we'll see them in La Liga next year. And as I said, cup games can be tricky, but Eibar is the much better team here. Of course, you have to watch out who they're going to play, who they're going to start, but even with the second team, they should be scoring against this Melilla team. So my tip here would be is to go over 1.5 goals on Eibar. The odds are currently at 170. Now for the last tip, let's finish it off in the Premier League, a game between Tottenham and West Ham. This should be a good one. Crazy how Tottenham has only 1 point in the last 4 games and they're only 3 points away from Man City. And shame that they had all those injuries. But every team has to go through that. Now Tottenham has played BTTS in 5 games in a row and West Ham has been a really solid team as of late. 4 victories in the last 5. I can see goals happening in this game. So my tip for you guys would be BTTS for odds 150. What's up with the bookies these days? Not giving us great odds at all. Guys, this is it for Thursday. We got about 8 tips. Hope you're happy with them. As usual, thumbs up if you appreciate the information that I provide you on this channel. And I'm glad this is going to be over with. The only thing that's worse than the international games is the domestic League Cup games. So yeah, guys, bet responsibly. Most importantly, stay healthy, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Adios.